beneath the dim blue glow of an anonymous monitor. The video began to load. Grainy, unstable, yet hauntingly deliberate. It flickered through a thread on a dark web forum known only by its cryptic name, The Seventh Haven. The post was live for 17 minutes before it vanished into the void. But not before 127 people had downloaded it. The title was simple. Post-clinical, Menglong Final MP4. The clip was only 7 minutes long. Yet those who saw it swore that time itself stopped inside that recording. No one could look away. Menglong had always been the image of quiet warmth. For years, audiences adored his kind smile, his soft eyes, the tender sincerity he carried through dramas that healed broken hearts across Asia. His name had been synonymous with gentleness. And then, 2 weeks before the video surfaced, he disappeared. No statement. No sightings. His management released a brief message, claiming he was taking a private break. Fans knew better. Something was wrong. There were whispers of a final project, filmed under a contract no one had ever seen. Production so secretive even the makeup team didn't know the script. When the clip emerged, the internet didn't believe it at first. The lighting was too sharp. The sound too real. The agony too natural. Analysts examined every frame. The horror grew undeniable. It wasn't a film set. It was a room, small, concrete, suffocatingly white. A single chair stood at the center, metallic and cold. The camera shook faintly, like someone's trembling hands were trying to steady it. And then came the sound, a shallow, uneven breath, followed by a voice that didn't belong to the actor they once loved. He was seated, hands tied. His face was swollen, streaked with something dark, shadow, blood. No one could tell. He wasn't acting. He wasn't pretending. And behind the camera, someone whispered in a low, accented Korean, "Tell them what they paid you for." Moments blurred between silence and panic. Menglong looked into the camera, not past it, not through it, but directly into the eyes of whoever was watching. His lips moved, barely forming words, as though every syllable cost him pain. The footage ended abruptly when a bright light washed over his face, dissolving the scene into static. Authorities dismissed it as a deepfake. Experts said it was impossible. But within hacker communities, a user named YH7 claimed to hold the full 37-minute version, the uncut footage, priced at $500,000 in Bitcoin. He said it came from a private film experiment gone wrong, and that the copy had been retrieved from a secure server labeled Studio 4. Beijing Media Tower. That name alone was enough to ignite chaos. Studio 4 had been closed for months following a mysterious fire that destroyed most of its archives. Yet somehow, one file survived. The file's metadata revealed an internal tag, experimental realism footage, Project Menglong. Investigators who accessed the leaked folder discovered fragments of production notes, lines like maintain emotional authenticity at all costs and no retakes if subject resists. Even without official confirmation, fans and journalists began connecting the dots. The project, allegedly funded by an international production company, was supposed to explore the limits of human expression under pressure. No one imagined it would cross into the grotesque. Online forums buzzed with theories. Some claimed it was an elaborate marketing stunt for a psychological film. Others swore it was genuine torture, filmed under the guise of method acting. In Seoul, fans held vigils with candles and handwritten notes reading justice for Menglong. The footage spread through encrypted channels, each re-upload darker than the last. Faces blurred, sounds distorted. But the pain remained unmistakable. Then came the second leak. A journalist from the Daily Handline, an independent Korean outlet, received an anonymous package, a small silver USB drive marked only with a sticker, "Director's Cut, Do Not Release." Inside was an alternate version of the footage. This one was longer, slower, and more deliberate. It began the same way, with a white room, the chair, the restrained breathing, but it didn't end with static. Instead, it faded into a new scene, a corridor, dimly lit, with a handheld camera moving shakily toward a half-open door. Someone inside was sobbing. His voice said quietly, almost tenderly, "He's still conscious." The journalist refused to publish the clip. She said it was too disturbing, too real. Others weren't as restrained. Copies spread like wildfire across the darknet. Each download tracked. Each re-upload encrypted through mirror servers in Seoul, Singapore, and Moscow. Within days, enforcement issued global takedown requests. Stays buried online. The more they tried to erase it, the more it multiplied. By the third week, the outrage had become a global storm. Hashtags like Justice for Menglong and Stop Dark Web Violence trended across platforms. A group of digital activists known as the Mirror Collective claimed they had traced the Bitcoin wallet of YH7 to a known server used by an ex-film producer blacklisted in 2021 for illegal human experiments in visual research. Governments denied involvement, but leaked documents hinted that the footage had been screened privately at a cinema symposium in Hong Kong months before Menglong's disappearance. Attendees described it as emotionally transcendent, visceral, too real to be fiction. Meanwhile, those who had viewed the leaked footage began reporting strange experiences: insomnia, panic attacks, hearing whispers in the silence. Some claimed the video looked back at them, others said frames changed each time they replayed it. Experts dismiss these accounts as psychological trauma, the mind's response to shock. But one cyberanalyst noticed something chilling: the files checksum, a digital signature used to confirm a video's authenticity, kept altering itself, as if the footage was still being edited by an unseen hand. Later, a mysterious recording appeared online. The voice was muffled, deep, distorted. This was never meant for release. He begged us to stop. The post was taken down within hours. But not before thousands heard it. It sounded like regret. Or confession. And in that confession lay the most horrifying truth: somewhere, someone had paid $500,000, not to make a movie, but to watch a man die for real. The internet went silent. Fans no longer debated if it was acting. Reporters stopped asking if it was real. Because deep down, everyone already knew. Of countless screens around the world. That final frame of Yu Menglong, eyes trembling, lips trembling, still trying to speak, stayed frozen in memory. A haunting image no one could delete. A moment that refused to fade. And though the original video was gone, replaced by endless rumors and digital ghosts, those who had seen it knew one thing for certain: the story wasn't over. Someone was still out there, holding the truth, waiting to sell the next chapter. Somewhere in the depths of the web, the title reappeared, only slightly different this time. Yu Menglong last session. MP4 bidding starts again. Rain fell over Seoul the night the second USB appeared. It was delivered in a plain envelope, sealed with black wax. No return address. Inside, another drive, marked simply with a hand-drawn symbol, a half-moon intersected by a single line. The same mark that had flashed for a split second in the leaked footage, right before the screen went white. Journalist Han Seo-yun plugged it in. The file name glimmered like a curse on her laptop. Menglong last session MP4. Footage began with the same sterile wide room. But this time the camera wasn't fixed, it moved, circling slowly around the chair. There was no screaming, no violence, only breathing. Yu Menglong sat motionless, his eyes swollen but strangely calm. The audio picked up a faint hum, the kind you hear in underground labs or basement studios where machines never sleep. He looked up once, toward the camera, and whispered something inaudible. Then, in perfect clarity, came a line that hadn't appeared in any previous version. Disappear, remember I said no. The screen cut to black, and a set of data logs appeared, lines of code, IP addresses, and a timestamp. 3.09. 2025, 3 hours, 41 minutes, and 6 seconds. Seo-yun froze. That was the same week the Beijing media tower had gone dark. She reached out to a hacker collective known as MirrorNet, who traced the footage's metadata to a Seoul-based post-production studio called Blue Wire Entertainment. The company had shut down 2 years ago after accusations of unauthorized experimental content. But the servers were still alive, quietly in an industrial district near Mapogu. Inside them, they found ghost directories, folders named Emotion Trial 01 Inches, Method Research, and one deep in the archives, labeled Menglong Project. What they found there was worse than any nightmare. The files were test sessions, dozens of them. Featured different subjects placed under stress, filmed through one-way mirrors. Some were actors, some weren't. All carried the same internal tag: experimental realism. The project's creator, according to archived memos, was a discredited film director known only by his initials, PK. He had once been praised for pushing emotional boundaries in art. But his obsession with capturing truth had devolved into something monstrous. In one recovered document, PK wrote, "An actor's limit is his honesty. I want to see what happens when there are no limits left." The funding trail led to an investment consortium in Hong Kong, which included subsidiaries from Japan, Singapore, and Seoul. They had funneled millions through dummy companies, labeling it as visual neuroscience research. In reality, it financed what the investigators called human suffering cinema, the kind of film no one was meant to watch, yet everyone now had. Seo Yun contacted a man known as the cameraman, to have been part of the original crew. They met in a rundown motel in Busan. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Told it was method acting, he said. They said he wanted realism. But the screams, they weren't scripted. He kept saying stop, but PK. Emotion was perfect. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a torn contract with Menglong's signature. The clause that froze Seo Yun's blood red. Former agrees to all emotional and physical conditions required for authentic reaction capture. Consent is absolute and final. Later, the cameraman was found dead in his motel room. The official cause, suicide. The unofficial rumor, a broken jaw and a missing USB drive. Seo Yun knew she had to expose everything. But every time she tried to upload the files, the network crashed. The footage seemed cursed, as if the system itself refused to let it out. When she finally succeeded, Seo didn't appear on any news site. Instead, it auto-uploaded to a single hidden domain, seventhchair.net. The same dark web market that had auctioned the original tape. Or something was controlling the narrative. In the police statement, authorities confirmed that DNA samples matching Menglong were recovered from a burned-out building on the outskirts of Beijing, formerly a Blue Wire satellite studio. The report vanished from official archives within hours. Government representatives called it fake news. At midnight, an encrypted live stream appeared on several darknet channels. A figure in shadow, voice modulated. Addressed the camera. You wanted truth? You paid for it. Truth isn't free. He didn't die for art. He died for silence. Behind the figure, the same white chair could be seen. Empty. Stained. In the days that followed, strange phenomena spread through online communities. Users reported corrupted files named Menglong Replay, MP4 inches appearing on their devices without download history. Each version contained a few extra seconds, new whispers, different angles. Sometimes even a glimpse of a figure standing behind the camera. The footage was evolving. Rewriting itself. Seo Yun fled Seoul, leaving her apartment empty except for a note, "Justice isn't truth. Justice is remembering." Weeks later, the dark web wallet used by YH7 showed new activity, a transfer of 0.8 BTC. Time-stamped at 3:41 a.m. The exact time from the file's metadata. The buyer's tag read simply, Collector 02. 1 year passed. Memorials for Menglong covered the streets of Beijing and Seoul. Fans still lit candles every 3rd of September. Every so often, anonymous accounts posted cryptic messages. He smiled before the light. Watch closely, the frame changes, he's not gone. Somewhere in the static between myth and memory, a final message surfaced. A short clip, barely 3 seconds long, showing the same white room, this time empty, except for the faint reflection of a man holding a camera. Silence before it faded. A voice whispered in Mandarin, "If anyone's watching, don't let it happen again." The file ended there, looping endlessly. Each replay colder than the last. No one ever found Han Seo Yun again. Her last known login accessed a hidden node traced to Iceland, then disappeared completely. But every few months, a new listing appears on dark web auctions. The description never changes. Cut edition, Project Menglong. Authentic pain. Limited to one buyer. No one knows who's selling it. No one dares to buy. And yet, the bidding always starts at exactly $500,000. The legend endures, not as a story of fame or tragedy, but as a warning. Sometimes art doesn't imitate life. Sometimes it devours it.